6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. While most people know of Hitler, the Holocaust, and the major tragedy, they aren't aware of all the other major players who were involved. Dr. Joseph Mengele was a brutal killer during the Holocaust. He alone determined the fate of thousands of innocent people. In March 1911 was when Dr. Joseph Mengele was born. In 1938, he obtained his doctorate in medicine and anthropology. Also during this time, he studied under Dr. Otmar van Verschen, who was a doctor that studied mainly heredity, genetics, and most importantly, the Aryan race. Dr. Joseph Mengele became part of the Nazi Party and SS. In 1940, according to Postner, where he was drafted into the army, or into the war, he volunteered to be part of the medical team. In 1943, he became wounded and unable to continue. What he did during these 3 years is widely unknown. When he returned, though, he was sent to Auschwitz, where he was the doctor at the gypsy camp of Birkenau. Dr. Joseph Mengele, while he was here, one of his most important roles was selection. This meant he was to choose, upon the arrival of the Jews, which ones would live and which ones would be immediately sent to the gas chambers. Dr. Joseph Mengele would go to the ramps for the selections even when he wasn't supposed to make sure that all twins were sent to him. He specifically wanted the twins to do experiments on. He would do amputations, injections, and study the twins. He wanted to see how their genetics were different from one another and how they were the same. One specific incident resulted in him sewing 2 twins together. Dr. Joseph Mengele would always do painful experiments upon the twins, and often the results would be death, so he could experiment them on post-mortemly. Dr. Joseph Mengele made sure that the twins' barracks were much better conditioned than the rest of the prisoners. He would make sure their food rations were higher and that they were not put in positions of hard labor. Dr. Joseph Mengele also did experiments on others besides the twins. He would work with dwarves and others who had genetic oddities. Dr. Joseph Mengele also would kill children just so he could perform autopsies upon them. Another experiment that was important to Mengele was eye color. He wanted to try to change the color of the eyes of those who did not meet the Aryan race. He would try to inject chemicals into the eyes so that they would turn blue. He was never successful. He did have an obsession with eyes, though. He would often save the eyes and send them back to his mentor, or he would pin the eyes upon a bulletin board. Dr. Joseph Mengele also studied people with noma, a disease of the mouth and face. The disease is now known to have been caused by the camps, but Mengele tried to find a cure and a cause while he was a doctor at Auschwitz. In 1948, Auschwitz was invaded and Mengele fled. He became part of a hospital team at another camp. This team was eventually captured by the Americans. It was unknown to them that Mengele was an SS officer, though, because he did not have the tattoo of his blood type that is typical of them. Mengele was a wanted criminal at this time, but he was released. It is unknown why he was released or how, because his release papers were never found. Many believe it was because of his former mentor. Upon leaving, Mengele was a farmhand between 1945 and 1949. After this, he fled to South America, where he was first in Argentina. He found out that there was a warrant for him in 1959. In 1960 was when the papers for him to be extradited were sent. Mengele heard of this and fled across South America to Paraguay and finally ended up in Brazil, where he died in 1979. Mengele was buried under a false name, Wolfgang Gerard. It was in 1985 that his body was exhumed, but it was not until 1992 that it was finally identified as Dr. Joseph Mengele. Dr. Joseph Mengele and what all he did at Auschwitz is not fully known. This is because most of his research was sent to his former mentor and he destroyed it. Dr. Joseph Mengele was a brutal killer of the Holocaust. He killed thousands and tortured many more. Dr. Joseph Mengele is a notorious killer of the Holocaust, and he will forever be known in history as the Angel of Death.